I have a very clear plan for Bitcoin and how I'm planning to trade it. I'm going to give you the exact levels I'm looking at and the exact scenarios that I'll be looking for to occur at those levels to get into any trades. Lots of stuff coming. If you want more of me, Telegram, Discord, all that stuff's on my website. You can obviously join the Haven as well. Link for the Haven joining below if you want live trades, more in-depth views on my system, things like that from me and other analysts. That's in the Haven. And obviously we cannot forget the sponsors of this video, Prime XBT. It's been almost 2 years that we've been working with Prime XBT. So shout out to the Prime team. Thank you so much for the continued support. If you want to support me, one of the easiest ways to do that, use that Prime XBT link in the description of the video. Use code MAIN50, deposit some money and do some trading. You can trade things like Euro USD on Prime with crypto as collateral. You can trade gold. You can trade the S&P 500. You can trade natural gas, oil, all that kind of fun stuff on Prime. We have a monthly candle that just closed. So July is now over. This is now August candle. So what happened? In July, we took out June's high and we closed below June's close. Okay, so we took out the high and closed below. Purely from a monthly view, when I see something like this happen, a lot of the time, the next target is that previous month's low. Took out June's high, closed below, next target, previous month low. Not every time, but let's just look on Bitcoin here. Every time we've taken out the previous month's high, what happened? So in this candle, took out the previous month's high, the low was untouched. This candle took out the last high, the low was untouched. Here though, took out the high, next it took out the low. Took out the previous month's high, eventually went and took out the low, but in the following month. Took out the previous month's high, took out the previous month's low. Took out the previous month's high, took out the last month's low. Took out the high, took out the low. Here's one where it didn't. I won't count this one because it didn't take out the high and close below. So here it closed through the high, but all of these instances, it traded above the high and closed below. Here's one that did not. Took out the high, but didn't take out the low. So out of all these examples here, we have took out the month's low, did not, did, it did, it did, it did, it did not, and it did not. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 out of the last 8 times that we've taken out the previous month's high and closed below it on the next monthly candle, we then proceed to take out the low. So a little more than half. So generally what you'll find is when the market is in a downtrend, that's when this is going to happen more often than not. As you can see here in the uptrend, right? Not happening. But when the market is bearish, more often than not, we see this trend persist. So to me, I think from a monthly perspective, there is a decent probability that June's low could be the next target for price if we are going to have another sell-off. So what do you do with that information? To me, it's very simple. This gives you a clear range in which to operate in. So if you take your fib and pull from the high to the low, and then we zoom in, so you have a very clear range to now operate in. And so now just using that monthly candle, we can now frame all the analysis that we do on the low time frame. So the premise is that I think that there is a good chance that we trade down to here. Well, now that we have the fib on here showing June's range, well, how do we trade ranges? We took out the range high. What becomes the next target? Yeah, maybe the range low, but more immediately is the mid-range. So we have the mid-range being the next target, in my opinion. And if you actually go to the weekly, what is right at that mid-range level? That breaker that I've been talking about. So we have our up candle before down move that took out a low. This candle swept this low here. This became a breaker. So if you go down to the 12-hour now, you can see the top of this breaker lines up exactly with the mid-range. And so you could say, okay, well, let me just refine this down to a area, small area here. So these old highs, this order block, and then the mid-range of June's candle. This gives you a level of interest here. So as you guys know, I'm short already. So I shorted based on the weekly SFP that we had up here and then the market structure break that we had here. So this 12-hour breaker, my entry is right here. So I posted about this in Discord and Telegram. I posted it in the Haven. So I'm short based on the weekly SFP. We also ran June's high. Then down on the 12-hour, I marked out the breaker that ran the SFP, and that was my entry. Now, I wanted to add more size because I thought maybe we were engineering some highs here, and I thought maybe this move up might take those highs out and then maybe we sell off, but we've kind of just sold off, right? We've made another low. So I don't know if we come back up and take these highs before trading lower anymore. So I don't know if I'm going to get any more size. My entry was based just simply on this 12-hour breaker, and you could go down to the hourly and you could find a lower time frame entry here. I didn't. I literally took my trade based on the 12-hour breaker. My entry is slightly better than this, right? And I'm just targeting the mid-range. That's the entire setup. So I'm short up here. To me, the logical place to TP is going to be coming into this level here. And then this is the level where I think the bulls need to step in. So I've talked about that breaker, which I had marked, which was that huge area on the weekly, but we've refined it down to this smaller area. And then I think this fair value gap is also something of interest. So to me, this becomes the critical area. If we are going to continue to sell off, maybe we pump up a little bit into here and then make another low. This is where I would be scaling out of my short position. And if this happens, by the way, on the H1, if you see a setup form, right, a high, a higher high, and then a shift, you could take that as your short entry with your target at the mid-range, right, if you're not in. So if you're not short now, if we get some sort of move up like I just described here on the H1, if we get some sort of move up here over the coming days into this order block here, I think you could then use that as your short entry with a target of here. But for now, let's assume that we do that and then we come down here. This is where I'd be scaling out of my shorts. And then between this zone and this fair value gap right here, this is where I would want to see the bulls step in right away. Because if we start spending any significant time below 28,111.8 or whatever the mid-range of June's candle is on your chart, we start spending significant time below here, I think the likelihood of us trading down to June's low is exponentially higher. So I'll want to be holding some of this short in case we do sell off, and then I'll be looking to compound if we do not show strength. But what I'm looking for as a bull in this zone, so this gray box plus this fair value gap here, is I want to see bullish price action. Maybe that occurs right here, right? We get a low and then some bullish PA. Maybe we get a low, lower low, right? All of this, what I'm drawing here, I'm not necessarily looking at on the 12-hour. I'm going to be looking on the H4, the H1, the lower time frames. I'm looking for this type of PA around this area. So I tweeted this like a week ago. I said 27.5 to 28K is where I'm looking for the dip to go to. And then I'm hoping we get a big bounce from there. Whether that bounce takes us to a new high or that bounce takes us to here and then we reject again, I don't know. I don't need to figure out that many moves in advance. I'm just trying to predict, the next 1 to 2 moves where I can actually take a trade. So right now, my prediction is down to here and I'm short. And then when we get here, my prediction is a bounce. So I'm going to be looking for opportunities to get long when we get to that area of interest. What I like about how I trade is there's lots of time to make your decisions. Obviously, you got to execute when the time is right. But then when you're not at an area of interest, like we are right now, we're in the middle of nowhere for me. So if you've looked at my updates, I've basically said I'm looking for a run of a low or a move up into here and maybe a run of one of these highs. So like something like this, or a move down to here. Unless we're interacting with any of those levels, I'm not doing anything. So it's hard to give you updates when nothing's changed for me. Almost 2 weeks I've been short already and I'm just chilling. When you have those predefined levels and you know exactly what levels you want to do business at and where they are and what you want to see when we get there, it makes your life a whole lot more chill. And so I've just given you an outline of exactly how I came to these levels. June's range, SR, fair value gap. This is where I think the area for the bounce to occur will happen if it's going to happen. However we get there, whether it's like this, maybe we get one more push up and then a larger sell-off. Maybe we just sell off from here. All I know is I know exactly what I'm looking for when we get to this area. I'm looking for a low time frame buy signal, whether it's a breaker, whether it's just simply an order block, but I'm looking for that to come in around this area. Another thing I would consider is a move below the mid-range and then a reclaim. So if it gets below the mid-range and then reclaims it, easy. The deviation is your stop. The reclaim is your entry, right? And then I would target up into here initially, back up into this kind of 29.5 to 30K area. And then we see. So that's a very detailed and straightforward plan of exactly what I'm looking for to happen on Bitcoin based on the high time frame, based on that monthly range. This is where the bulls need to hold if we're going to trade higher. It doesn't mean we have to come down here. We can trade higher from here. But if we come down here, they need to hold this area, because failure to hold this area, then I'm very confident we trade back to June's low. And if we trade back to June's low, like if we do something like this, the next bounce, I think ends up with a rip even lower. It becomes very ugly if that happens. If you're super bullish on Bitcoin right now, I think that you do not want to see it spend any significant time below 28K. Now, from a more short-term day trade perspective, I gave you that as well. We have our new 12-hour zone here. So I'm just looking at this and I'm saying, okay, we've got a fresh 12-hour range here. There's your high, there's your low. I'm interested in either shorting the gray box or a move above the high and back in, or longing a sweep of the low. That's my day trade plan. So I just talked about my high time frame analysis, swing trade based on the monthly. From a day trading perspective, if we get a run above these highs into this order block, if it's really bullish, or not really bullish, but if it's really strong, it might sweep this high. But then if we reject, these are both areas where I'd be looking for shorts. If we sweep the range low, I would be interested in longing. Otherwise, no trades. So I want to see a bounce up and then a short, or I want to see a sweep of the low and then I'd look to long it into this order block. Otherwise, I'm chilling. If it just rolls over from here and then holds below the low, I'm not touching it until it gets down to that mid-range. So that's kind of my day trade plan for Bitcoin, as well as some alpha on how I break down the charts. I just went from the monthly to the weekly down to the 12-hour to give you my game plan for a day trade, because again, on the 12-hour chart, this move up here and then a potential short, well, this I'm looking for on like the H4, H1. I'm not looking for this on the H12, because on the H12, it might just be one can. It might just look like this. Touch it and then reject. How do you get in there? The low time frame is where you get that entry. Now, the day trade I saw here that could be in process and might be the juice that we need to get up into here. We have a 12-hour sweep here. Go down to the hourly. Here's your breaker. Here's your market structure break right there. Retesting that zone, that breaker right now. You could argue that this is your long that's going to take us up into that order block there where the short might occur. The range that we're working in here on Bitcoin is a down leg. So I'm interested in shorting in the upper part of the range. The only time I'd be interested in longing in a down leg is if we swept the low. Otherwise, I want to be focused on shorting near the highs. And it's the reverse for an up leg. If price is making an up leg, right, like this, yes, I can short this and hope to trade it back into here, but my anticipation is a higher high. So in reality, I'm more interested in looking for longs down here, because any short I'm taking here is counter trend. And that's exactly what I'm talking about here. I believe longs right here are counter trend. I think any bounce we get is into a lower high. So yeah, you can take the long, but it's not with the trend, so it's not as high of a probability trade for me. Doesn't mean you can't take it. The risk reward is there. I posted about it this morning in Telegram. I said, I think from here, there's your breaker. I think that can push us up there. And as you can see, you know, we're starting to get that bounce right now. Maybe it plays out. And if it does, I'm not going to be like, oh God, I wish I longed. I don't care. It didn't fit my rules. I didn't want to take the trade. And it's also Monday, right? So I like to let Monday's range usually form. And as you can see, there's Monday's low. Here's Monday's high. So let's see if we get a trade. Maybe tomorrow we run Monday's low. That is a long I would take. Or maybe this plays out. We run Monday's high and then we get back inside. Well, guess what? Now you've got your short plan. One other alternative scenario is obviously we can get some sort of pump from here or lower and finally run this high here. So everyone's been looking at this 32K high, waiting for it to get fucking taken out. Still hasn't happened. We've now got, you know, kind of almost equal highs with this one and this one here. Maybe we trade a little lower to that area of interest of mine, and then we get the move to 32, and then we get a large correction. Maybe we trade to 32 from here and then dump. But a move above this high, in my opinion, if a setup forms there, I think it's a fade. Whether we drop first and then take it out, or go up from here and then take it out, either way, this is a liquidity level I'm aware of. And if it gets run and we get some sort of bearish reaction like this, big move up and a close below, I would take that as an opportunity to fade. Okay, so I've given you my monthly high time frame analysis and reasoning. I broke it down to the 12-hour. I gave you some day trade ideas on Bitcoin here. I've laid all that out for you, and I've given you the knowledge on why I'm marking these levels and exactly what I'm looking for when we get to those levels. I don't know who else is giving you this kind of detail and insight into their system, but this is exactly what I plan on doing. So I try and make it super transparent for you guys, right? Like, this is exactly how I fucking trade. It's that simple. So that's the game plan for Bitcoin, and that's my analysis for Bitcoin. Super duper fucking straightforward. Ethereum, monthly candle, took out the high. Basically the same plan as Bitcoin here, okay? We've got a weekly order block down here, and we've got that weekly breaker here. So this is your weekly order block right here. And then this is your weekly breaker, this candle that I've marked here. We ran this high and it looks kind of heavy, right? It looks like it might roll over. So you go down to the 12-hour, and this to me is the same as Bitcoin. Very similar to Bitcoin, okay? We have some highs here within this 12-hour block. And then to me, the draw on price is 1750. So maybe we get a bounce up here. Maybe we get above here, but ultimately I want to see us trade down to 1740, 1750. And just like on Bitcoin, I think 27.5 to 28K is where I want to see the higher low form. On Ethereum, I don't really think you want to see us trade below 1700 for any significant period of time. 1700 to 1750 is where I think if we're going to come down here, you want to see us exit here very quickly. So what do I mean by that? Look at this. Came below the level. Remember what was over here? It was that old weekly breaker. So we had that old breaker over here. We dipped into it, came out right away. Same thing on Bitcoin, right? Remember this? Remember that breaker I had here? Literally, we dipped into the zone, took out the low, made a low, shifted market structure, and we were gone. That's what I'm talking about on these charts here. If we're going to come down to these deep levels here, I want to see a reaction like this. I want to see a reaction like this. I want to see a reaction like this. I want to see clear evidence that this is a run and then a reclaim. I don't want us to trade below here consistently, because if we do that, then that makes me think that we're going to break down. It's the inverse of this. If this was going to be a fade at the range high, you want to see it get out of the range and then back in immediately. But instead, this thing just kind of consolidates here and then ends up trading higher. So this is the kind of shit I want to see happen here. DXY, I called the move up on, right? Everyone was saying it was going way lower. I thought maybe it would go a little lower, but I said, hey, we're getting a big bounce soon on DXY, and I think it trades to 104 to 105, maybe up to 106. We came back within the weekly range here, right? Traded below. This is exactly what I'm saying for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Traded below and right back in. This looks like a really strong reclaim now. We're back above the range low. We got a very clean retest, and we're just pushing. This could still fade. So if this does pull back here, I would want to see it hold this 12-hour order block. But ultimately, I think that this trades up to here at least 104. And that would line up with a bit deeper pullbacks on Bitcoin and Ethereum. I'm in a short actually right now on this. It's not looking so good. Basically just a breaker play here. Down candle for up move. We took out a high. We broke market structure. I shorted the retest, but it looks pushy. Even though the dollar is going up, this is going up too. So I might get stopped out of this here tomorrow. I don't know. I'm going to hold the position though. I'm not going to close it early. I'm comfortable with my risk. So we're above Monday's high right now. So for me to be right, we need to get back below Monday's high and then sell off. But if I'm wrong, which I very well could be, and it looks like I might be here, and this just isn't quite ready to correct. To me, the next level that's obvious is right here, right? So we have this very clear high here that looks like is the draw on price. Like I could get stopped out overnight here, but it looks like the draw on price here is this 46.40 level. And if that happens, right? So if we get that little push higher, like I took the short because it ticked the boxes, but it's probably a bit of aggressive trade because we have a higher time frame liquidity target just above us, and I'm shorting before that, so that's not really smart. And this thing has been in a very strong uptrend for fucking the entire year, so shorting is counter trend. I probably should wait until a larger, more obvious sign of rejection occurs, And if we keep pushing up, I think that could happen here. We've got this breaker here that we're trading into, and we've got this high right here. So if we trade up into this and then get some sort of rejection, that could give a very nice short, at least back into here. If it continues up from there after, I don't know. Yo. How are ya? This was a little bit of a weird stream. So we went very in depth on Bitcoin, okay? And then I yelled at you a whole bunch about a bunch of random shit. About goddamn time I get recognized for the neck lord that I am. I want neck merch, neck mugs, neck clothing. If you want neck merch, let me know. I know what to do because I'm super duper smart. I don't know the intricacies of exactly what happened, but it seems quite bad. Fuck that guy. Why? I don't know. Fucking nightmare. This guy says I've been out of the Haven a couple months. How's it been since you joined? I mean, it's been great because I'm in there now, bro. Come on. Maine is also bald. I am. This guy says, did I do K at Shambhala? I don't know. Did I? I don't do drugs, bro. Drugs are bad, okay? Drugs are bad. I had a blast. I'm just old. Body was in shambles. Anyways. Yeah, I'm tired of Cred roasting my box size. He's just jealous. He's got box envy. That's what it is. Hey, do you have a paid group for yelling at me? I should, man. That's something I'm good at.